Hello, I am Jodell and I have the pleasure to be speaking with John Steffes. He is the owner of a local business called the Pioneer Saloon. It is the oldest bar in Oregon and just celebrated its 140th anniversary. Thank you, Mr. Steffes, for talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me a little bit about your past and how you came to own the Pioneer Saloon?
So yeah, I came through Paisley in 2015 in the fall on a motorcycle trip, and just really loved the area. I think this area is really beautiful. I spent some time at the hot springs, and then I spent a bunch of time in the bar playing poker and hanging out. And when I found out it was for sale, I thought about it for a little bit, and then got the money together and put an offer in on it, and the rest is history. At the time, I was an organic vegetable grower in Sandy, Oregon, and I've been doing that for about 10 years, and was having trouble. I mean, I made my living. Did that year-round full-time and was able to make a living at it, but I had no savings. Had a tractor and some implements, no land, and decided that I needed to try to do something that would make a little bit more money, since I'm not getting any younger. So, before I farmed, I worked in the restaurant industry for about 17 years. I started in Colorado, and then the bulk of that was in Portland. And yeah, that's how that came to be.
It sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Whole lot of backstory behind that, actually.
Yeah. It's been a very interesting experience. Moving here and running the bar and being in a town of 250 people. It's been quite interesting.
You ever owned a business or bar before?
Yeah, I owned I've started 2 farms when I was farming, and one was I had a partner, and the second one was on leased land that I did on my own. And so the first one with the partner, he was generally running the back end of the business, and I was, designed and started the whole farm, and then was basically in charge of all the operations. And he was doing the business end. And then when I went out on my own, I was doing both. I was doing the operations and the business. And that was the second farm that I was running on my own was very small. It was an acre and a half that I did by myself and then sold to restaurants. So pretty simple business model, not a whole lot of moving parts.
What is the experience of running the saloon in a business in general like?
Running the saloon, it's a very small town, and so that's a big part of it. It's different than if you're in a big city. I've enjoyed it for the most part. You really get to know a lot of people in town. Not everybody, but I mean, it's been a huge learning experience for me. So not only are you dealing with customers, but I have a staff of usually at least 4 people, and then it can be 7 or 8 in the summer. So learning to manage staff was a big learning curve for me, and I feel like I had a lot of room for improvement at the beginning, and have gotten a lot better at learning how to communicate with people in a way that makes them feel good. I'm not perfect at it by any means, but I'm trying to get better on that, and trying to figure out the best way to keep my staff happy and keep people motivated, and I've gotten better at that. I still plenty of room for improvement on that. I think that would be something that I'll always be working on if I continue to have businesses. But overall, it's been a good experience and very interesting. It's just you can guess on what it might be like running the oldest bar in Oregon in a town of 250 people, but actually doing it, you just come across all kinds of things that you never expected, and so it's been challenging and interesting. And business in general, it has its pros and cons. You're always, if something goes wrong, you've got to take care of it. I'm on call 24/7, and there's there's challenges to running business, and there's also some benefits if you do it well. Then you make money, and there's a sense of accomplishment, and that always feels good.
How is running a service industry business different if it is in a small remote town?
I don't really view it as any different. For me, running a service industry business is about finding and keeping good staff. That's a huge part of it, because they're interacting with the public and creating your product, and that's not different. It can be a little bit more challenging I've been very lucky. I have an amazing staff, and I've had people out for 5 and 6 years working for us. So I don't think that's any different. You're whether or not you're in a small town or a big city, you have to do that in order to succeed. Is to have good staff that you can count on, that hopefully enjoy working there and create an experience that people want to have, and will repeatedly do that. So it's not my strategy. I don't think is a whole lot different than it would be if I was in a bigger town or a city. You have to have high quality, consistent food and great service, and that doesn't change just because you're out in a small town.
Sounds like a really good business model.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, pretty basic.
What are the most rewarding and frustrating parts of owning the saloon?
It's rewarding to start a project. When 8 years that we've been here for 8 years, coming in and starting a project in a restaurant business. A lot of restaurants fail. I think the statistics are 1 in 5 restaurants fail within the first year. It's not an easy business. The margins are slim. It's not an easy business. So coming in and having risk involved and not knowing if you're going to succeed, and then building something that I feel like is a solid, good business that provides a good service for the town, and then for any customers that come through. It's a unique experience at the bar because it's so old, and it's in this beautiful place in this small town. So it's rewarding to have created something that I feel like is very consistent and consistently good. And to also have made a little bit of money doing it, because obviously that's a goal of starting a business is making money. And so we've been successful, and that feels really good. That's very rewarding. Frustrating parts, managing people and finding staff, I think is challenging regardless of where you're located. And I have a friend that has a sandwich shop and a bar in Portland, and over the years I call and talk to him about staffing issues, and he basically is saying, I'm having the same issues, and he's in Portland and has an unlimited labor pool. So it's not, that part can be frustrating. We've been really, really lucky. We have amazing staff right now, and then for the past 6 years we just lost a few people, Emmett and Ambrielle, but we've been really lucky in that we've had amazing staff, and that's good. But it wasn't always that way. The first 2 years were really challenging, and my wife worked the first 2 years, and she got us through. Those were really difficult times in general for me, and also as a new business owner. And she worked really hard for those 2 years, and I think we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if she hadn't got us through those first 2 years, because I think we would have failed. So I've been lucky, but probably the most consistently frustrating is staffing, and well, like I said, we've been really lucky to find good people.
Glad to hear it's going well for you.
Thank you.
Are customers mostly local, or do you get a lot of people that are passing through?
It's seasonal, so in the wintertime, business slows way down, and it's generally locals. I mean, we still do have travelers coming through in the winter, and then in the summertime, it's spring and summer and early fall. We have a lot more travelers coming through, and that's when we do the bulk of our business, and then it kind of tapers off on either side of the summer. So it's a mix.
That sounds like a average sort of city business kind of deal.
Well, no, it's different. If the winters are much slower. If we were in a bigger town, the winter numbers, our sales numbers in the winter would be much better. But since it's people are only going to go out to eat a couple times a month maybe, or sometimes more, sometimes less, but depending upon the person. But because the population is so small, our winter numbers are smaller.
We learned in our social studies class that the 4 P's to running a business are price, product, place, and promotion. Can you talk about each of these as you think it relates to the Pioneer Saloon?
Yes, and I would add one to that. I would say 5 P's and add people, because as a business owner, you have to interact well with other people, whether or not that is staff or customers. And that's probably the most important thing that I think it makes a successful business, is the ability to interact well with your staff and your customers. Price, and it's fairly straightforward. You need to charge enough to make money, and still provide a service and or product at a price that people can afford and that will repeatedly come and buy your product. And that's kind of the crux of a business, is you can't charge too much, but you have to charge enough to make money. Product, my strategy is always you buy the best product you can get at the price that you can afford to pay, and make sure that it's in a restaurant situation. In a restaurant situation, that you're preparing it as best you can, and that everything is always fresh. And in a restaurant also, the experience is part of the product. So you have a clean place, clean establishment with excellent service, with people that are friendly and care and are efficient. So our product is not just the food or the drink; it's the whole experience. And so you want to strive for excellence in all of those areas. Place, obviously, the Pioneer Saloon is remote. And that has its benefits. There's not a lot of competition, but also our winters can be very slow. So place is important. Also, this place is the oldest bar in Oregon, and that's a draw. So that works into our advantage, most definitely. Promotion, as far as the Pioneer goes, it's been mostly word of mouth. I haven't really done a lot of promotion until recently, when we're trying to sell the bar. So wasn't really happy with the marketing that I was getting from the real estate agents. So I did a press release around the 140-year anniversary celebration, and that's the biggest promotion I've done. And that got us a full-length feature article in the Oregonian. OPB came to our 140-year anniversary and sent a reporter and did a radio piece and an article on their website, and then PBS also sent a film crew and did a feature 25-minute video about the 140-year anniversary. So that worked great, and I expect to see a steady increase in sales because of that. That's not going to happen all at once, but there was a ton of visibility there, and so now when people are driving through the area, they might stop, whereas they might not have before they read it or saw something about the bar and its history. Promotion, I think there's a fair amount of places that use word of mouth, and then there's other people that really focus on marketing. at the Pioneer, that hasn't been a big priority.
Having OPB come all the way here, that's an achievement.
Yeah, that was very exciting. They did a really nice article. The PBS film crew did a really good job, and then the Oregonian article was huge visibility for us. So I was really happy with that.
When did you hold all that anniversary business? I don't think I was here yet.
It was in June. I think it was late June. That's when they had that. Nice party. We had a band, and the turnout was pretty good, and it was a nice little event.
Can you discuss your feelings about competition from the food truck and about the rumors of a cafe that's being built?
The food truck is good in that it is filling a hole as far as breakfast is concerned in town. So that's a great thing for everybody to have available, because before it's just a hot case at the Merc. So to have a little bit of variety there, I think that's good. They also have kind of staggered their hours to where they're open Mondays and Tuesdays, and generally not the weekends. So there's not a ton of overlap for our lunch. I mean, it definitely will cut in a little bit to our bottom line, but for a long time now, it was the Homestead and the Pioneer, and both were able to make it through the winters. My concern with more businesses or more restaurants, to be specific, is basically the slow periods of the winter. It being a limited population, you've got about 250 people, probably a little bit more than half of them, maybe more than that, but not everybody is going to go to restaurants. So you have a pretty small population supporting what restaurants you do have. Going through the summer, you have a lot more travelers, you have a lot more business. I think the town can definitely support 2, maybe even 3 restaurants. The struggle will be for all 3 if the cafe does come online, and they're, from what I've heard, they're planning on breakfast and lunch. If you have 3 restaurants in a town this small, and all 3 are trying to get through the winter, my main concern is that it might not be able to support all 3. Other than that, some variety would be really nice. If you take the business aspect out of it for me, I would love to have another restaurant come in that serves something different than we do. I would eat there. If it's good food, I'd eat there plenty. My main concern is not having enough revenue for all 3 through the slow times, and it will. If you do have all 3 up and running, it's going to hurt all 3 of them. All 3 of the operations will do less sales and potentially have a challenging time making it through the winter months.
A large enough economy is what you're saying to have different.
Maybe there is. Maybe I'm pleasantly surprised. I do feel like it's hard enough to, even when we were the only gig in town, going through the winters, it gets somewhat lean. So adding 2 more into the mix, I worry that all 3 of them may suffer. But I could be wrong. All 3 might do just fine. I just don't know like you said, if the economy is big enough to support 3 throughout the winter.
You kind of have done this, but as to your knowledge, could you give some history on the Pioneer Saloon and what makes it special to you? I
think the Pioneer is special. The obvious one is it's the oldest bar in Oregon. Recently, the piece about the bar in the Oregonian she was debating who's the oldest bar in Oregon, and she'd been researching the Rainbow Cafe in Pendleton because they claimed to be the oldest. So she did an article on them, and she saw that they were claiming the oldest, so she started researching it, and she did some pretty extensive research and has decided that the Pioneer is the oldest. The Rainbow Cafe, for the first few years, maybe 10, I can't remember the details, but initially it was a grocery store, I think, that was run by a teetotaler. So her criteria for what the oldest bar is that it's the oldest ongoing bar in the same location. And so this bar was started in 1883 is the number. She thinks it might be a little bit older than that. The Rainbow Cafe didn't become a saloon until, I want to say around the 1890s. I'd have to look that up, but definitely is not as old as the Pioneer. So I think that makes it very special. It's been a saloon since it opened and went through Prohibition as a pool hall, which to me means it was, in all reality, it was probably the same and still a bar. They're probably serving alcohol. But the longevity there is pretty amazing. So the other part of the history is not so much about the saloon as it is about the ranching community. And, it was originally settled by the Scottish and the Irish, I think. And initially they were running sheep, and then they slowly switched over to cattle over the years. But we have some century ranches here and, 5 or 6 family-run ranches, and they're still doing it like their ancestors did it. And the new generation are coming up and actually continuing to ranch, and I find that kind of exciting and unique. That's not always happening, and I don't care what industry you're in. A lot of the times, it seems like the next generation doesn't necessarily want to take it over, and our family ranches here are passing the torch kind of as we speak. The next generations are coming up. They're in their late 20s, and they are continuing to ranch the same way that they have been, and keeping it in the family. And that is special to me, that family aspect. And the fact, that this town exists because of ranching. So that's just a huge part of the community.
You are trying to sell the saloon. If you do, what are you going to pursue next?
Well, short answer is I'm not sure. We bought a house in Corvallis, so we got a 3-year-old now, Angela and I, and our little one is named George, and he's 3. My wife's family is in the Portland area, so we bought a house in Corvallis to get closer to them, closer to Nana specifically, but the whole family. But one idea is to start another bar and restaurant in Corvallis, and I'm just not sure if I want to go that direction. But that, I have a skill set now that I've done this, and confident I could do well if I did that. The other one part of me, it's appealing to just go to work for somebody else, and not have the challenges and responsibilities of being a business owner. I'm just not sure at this point. It kind of depends on what comes up, and if I decide that starting up another business is really what I want to do. I'm kind of leaning in that direction.
At least you have a few solid ideas for the future.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to share that I didn't ask?
I kind of touched on it a little bit. I want to thank my staff. My current staff is amazing, and then the Williams family has been working for us for going on 6 years now. The Corey and Emmett and Ambrielle have all left, but they were a huge part of why we're doing well, why the business is successful, and just did a fantastic job. And that's such a huge part of running any business, but especially out here, I feel really lucky to have found people that are reliable and do an amazing job and put out great product, and we're just fantastic at service. And now, I still have Trina, who's managing for us, and she's just been amazing. She's the mother of Corey and Emmett. And so I just feel like, I mean, it sounds cliche, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it without my staff. It's just the reality of it. And when you find good people, I just, I may not say it out loud to them that much, but there's not many weeks or days that go by that I don't appreciate what we have in our staff. And then I mentioned it earlier, but I met my wife after I put an offer in on this place up in Sandy at one of the bars that I would go to near the farm, and she came down to help me move and ended up staying. And now we're married, and now we have a 3-year-old, and she got us through the most difficult years, which were the first 2 to 3 years of starting this business, and it was very, very challenging. And she got us through it and worked insane hours and was very patient with me, and I just feel blessed and lucky to have her.
Thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm Jodell Musgrove, and I've been talking with John Steffes, owner of the Pioneer Saloon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.